Welcome back. This is TVXYZ. Today is Thursday, and I believe that you are very fit, you had a good sleep, and you are preparing to contribute your quota to build Mother Ghana. This morning, I'm sure you've already started discussing some of the issues that really surprise you. I want to start first by sharing what I chanced somewhere as security tips. As for what is happening, I'm sure you may be surprised, or some will say, I am not surprised. Yesterday, Ghanaians were interested in how government had packaged its response to the concern raised about the expensive foreign trips by the president. And I'm sure you have followed the conversation after Dominic Nitiwul, the defense minister, appeared before Parliament. I've heard Okudzeto Ablakwa, who is the MP for North Tongue and the ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, saying that he's not satisfied with proceedings because he was not given the opportunity to ask probing follow-up questions on the floor when the minister appeared. Some are saying, oh, by convention, the minister is, or the MP is allowed to ask 3 follow-up questions, and that's all. And I asked, what is the object of scrutinizing any activity that borders on the interest of the state? So Parliament, so you are just interested, just ask 3 follow-up questions without subjecting a serious, sensitive issue that borders on governance to us. Now he says in his submission, among other things, that the presidential jet is too small. It can carry up to 11 apart from the crew. Besides that, he says the luggage compartment is too small. I don't know how much luggage the president travels with. And again, he explains that because the president has to arrive and quickly freshen up to enter any meeting or any business discussion he's supposed to be attending because of the trip, he has to freshen up. And going to the hotel, COVID-19 and delays here and there, that is why they opted for the luxurious jet at the cost of the taxpayer, so the president can freshen up on the plane. And that is among the excuses. I try to stay late into the night to follow how people are discussing it. And I've chanced on a flimsy excuse by somebody in an attempt to douse what is really on the table for people to talk about. And he says that these are the statements the minister presented to Parliament. So he presented photocopied pages of the statement, the response to Okudzeto Ablakwa's urgent question. And he says that on paper, there's nothing like bathroom on the plane. And so the minister just said it. And I asked myself, was the minister speaking like the roads and highways minister who says we are far, far, far behind technology and therefore we should speed up because a lot of things are happening, because he was speaking out of his own emotions without considering the plight of the people who are interested in him solving our problems. And so it backfired. People went to his hometown, Chebi, and showed us how much roads have seen development or transformation compared to communities around that area, and we all know how it happened. So what was in the minister's mind? That you have written something on paper, and in your explanation, you come out. What I know is whenever you have a prepared speech, sometimes there's additional information you say outside what is prepared to add value to what you have said. Because I've written speeches for people before. And so what he said was what is part of the reasons. And so, ebia edruacheno. So edruna wacheno we pay finano. They young Chotro Bibi, because they gave him more than 2 weeks to come and present his case before Parliament. And that's the story. And it's so pathetic that at a time when we are all crying, within 23 hours on air, on a chartered flight from one country to the other, less than 1 day on air, and then over 2.8 million cedis spent traveling. And you ask yourself, if the president has to travel, How big should the delegation be? Because I remember in September 2018, the president traveled to US. He was in Washington. And we heard that when the same presidential jet was being flown from one location to the other, it developed a fault. And that was the beginning of the decision to show interest in chartered flights. So at the time the president went to Washington, at that time, there was nothing like large delegation. There was nothing like so many luggages, and therefore our presidential jet doesn't have compartment that is big enough. So when former President Mahama and all those who have traveled with the jet for foreign trips before did, were they thinking about the country? That is why they saw it wise to cut down on the large delegation they travel with. When these delegations go, what do? I've seen several statements from the office of the president sent to me. And in that statement, the president traveled, the foreign minister with a member or staff at the presidency, staff of the foreign affairs ministry, and so on and so forth. What do they go and do? I'm just wondering. And it's a serious issue. And I would have wished that the parliament as an institution subjects this to proper scrutiny. That is what we call accountability. I'll stop it there because it will be part of our conversation. We'll give you the space later to also speak your mind, because it's about time we speak before things get out of control. And yesterday, Africa Education Watch addressed the media, and they've made some startling revelation about mass leakages in the 2020 WASI. To be specific, they provided evidence, and they said invigilators, WAEC invigilators, were part of the grant scheme. There was a created Telegram or WhatsApp platforms, and these are paid platforms. And exam questions were leaked, and the leakage happened between the GES and the police stations where the exam questions were put. And at the end of the day, these leakages happened, and the questions were answered and given to the students. And in fact, the executive director of Africa Education Watch says that almost every question, every exam paper leaked, apart from social studies and integrated science. And today, there are two rhetorics. One is that we have children who pass so well, and it is a reflection of the quality of education that we have. And maybe if the bill, that's the public universities bill, had gone through, I'm sure there would have been directives to our public universities to by force admit these students. And don't forget, I know that nearby, Nigeria, it got to a stage people said the international community, the education class, did not value their certificates because of mass leakages and more practices. And many Nigerians who can afford have decided since to send their children to come to Ghana to educate their children because of the value placement on our certificates. Are we walking into an era where maybe when these students go through the university system, because they may in future allow themselves to be compromised, then a time will come when you talk about certificate from any university or any school in Ghana, they will say, oh, there's no value on it. It is a serious issue. Africa Education Watch says that we must break that monopoly. And we all heard about what happened. We heard about the cases. We heard about students who were dismissed. We heard about the public outcry that forgive them. We heard about the apology from students who poured out and said what they told them didn't happen. Openly. Teachers were attacked. Invigilators were attacked. And I remember what Professor Nana Jenopoku-Agyeman told me, because she's a respected Ghanaian who has earned her reputation, said that, look, I understand the system. And if we go with that rhetoric that, oh, Akufo-Addo graduates, they pass so well, and that represents or reflects quality, then we have a problem. And of course, in any system that you want to try, what I know is you allow it to operate fairly so that you be given the opportunity to properly assess it in the interest of quality and getting the best results. So as we sit, I don't know who is speaking the truth, but there are issues there, because if invigilators or examiners were part of the deal, then we have a huge problem. And I'm sure we should not rest there. I'll stop here. I'll be taking a break. And that break will lead you into what we call work or office stress, managing stress at the workplace. What does it really mean? And when you face it on a daily basis, whether you are a superior or a subordinate, how do you handle it? Of course, The lady who will put smile on your face and wake you up, put life in you to march forward is Obobia. And let's listen to her.
Hello and welcome to another beautiful day. And thank you for tuning in to TV XYZ and Weasel TV for the morning update. What work do you do? Does your work give you satisfaction? Are you worried about your performance at work? Do you get overwhelmed with meeting deadlines? Today, my pause for 3 minutes is on workplace stress. Stress affects people differently. While some struggle to cope, for others, extremely stressful lifestyles are all they need to be at their best. Everyone has a level of stress they can handle. Too little excitement with few challenges may lead to boredom for some. Too much stress can lead to health problems for others. Lately, an increasing number of workers complain of stress arising from their places of work. A stressful working environment can have a significant impact on your health and even your relationship with your colleagues and family. It is normal to feel some tension at the workplace, especially with an upcoming deadline or a challenging assignment to undertake. However, continuous stress from work can end up affecting both your physical and emotional well-being. It has the tendency to decrease your productivity at work and cause you to make avoidable mistakes. No matter how much you love your job, experiencing stress at work is unavoidable. You can't control everything at the workplace, but you can sure take some steps to cut it. When you feel overwhelmed at work, your best stress reducer is to take a break and have a deep breath. You can as well delegate some of your work to a trusted colleague. Always make sure you organize your work day to avoid distractions and interruptions. Do one thing at a time and avoid piling too many unfinished works. Sometimes, all you need to do is to unplug. Yes, take some break from your busy work schedule to have some time for yourself. Reward yourself. When you finish a difficult task, celebrate your little victories. Schedule time for fun. A night out with the girls or drinks after work with the guys can do wonders for your emotional health. Remember, if you spend every second of your day getting things done, you may regret never having time for yourself. You also matter. My name is Obobia Dakupuku, and thank you for watching Pause for 3 Minutes. Pause for 3 Minutes is brought to you by FlexiPay. Endless possibilities.
Welcome back. I'm sure you know why I'm laughing. Because somebody said the last part of Obobia's presentation is not bad. Charlie, ubra, you make a crown, baby. Maybe a teaching. Normally, me pedia, I skin, or I don't care about whether lorry time or day. I don't care. Then say what they Diano when it's fine kakrano. Now the war, now they are paging, and when you are chewing it, then you start relaxing. Now we'll drink. Just take some fresh air, relax your brain, and go home. And baby, your car said now no girls and boys can crack what na baby ajimoni and also in your bad because sometimes in office no ya na ebufu na no maybe or na tete okofie nso na de abeto aso no se bia na oyere anawukunu so another stress and also and that can also weaken you. But we don't have much time. I have the newspapers. I have also some security tips to share. Now, I'll run through the newspapers because at the other segment, we'll go into them. Front page of the Ghanaian Times says, Agenda 111 project, work on 35 hospitals starts next month. And that comes with a picture of the health minister. The back page, government announces 2021 closed fishing season, cautions against sale of spoiled fish. And that's on the back page of the Ghanaian Times. Business and Financial Times. Economy grows 3.1% despite pandemic. The details are on page 3. SNIT NIA integration takes off in 2 weeks. Front page of the Business and Financial Times. The Daily Dispatch. The president cannot use the 11-seater jet for long trips in this COVID era. And that's what the Dispatch, Benefson and Peter Nkume's paper, that's what it's reporting. Now, Michael Dokosi's Daily Post. Akufo-Addo can't even shower in presidential jet. Nitiwul defends president's alleged extravagant foreign trips. That's on the front page of the Daily Post. The Chronicle newspaper on its front page. Auditor's report reveals more rot at Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly. Officials now sitting on tenterhooks. That's on the front page of the Chronicle newspaper. Now, the Daily Graphic on its front page. Senate adopts Ghana card ID changeover from June 28th to December 31st. And police on alert over bandits. Printers call for tax waiver on materials. Front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Now, my good friends at Lens Multimedia have also sent me a few of the headlined newspapers I don't have here. Daily Guide has on its front page, Appeals Court bounces Opuni and Agongo. That's the big story on the front page of the Daily Guide. Thunder on its front page says, Napo unveils Ghana's first electric car. The Insight newspaper, that is Kwesi Pratt. Martin Amidu punches Akufo-Addo again. And then we move to the Citizen newspaper, Ghana chiefs to demonstrate. And of course, it's over expropriating of their lands by political appointees. Crusading Guide, Kweku Bako's paper, 11 deputy ministers approved by Parliament. And the Statesman on its front page says Kumasi daylight robbers arrested. So these are the exciting papers. Now I'll talk to you about security tips. If there's time, let me see. Some 2 more minutes. Let's share them on the screen. The first one, if you are security conscious, says never use car stickers that indicate where you work, especially if you have prestigious job. Never share pictures of your kids in their school uniforms or badges. Protect. When you attend parties, don't let the band get you so high that you start spraying money. Use an envelope. Don't be the one that tries to empty the ATM machine by making large withdrawals. You don't seek 50K in your wallet to feel like a man. Always delete your bank transaction notifications, especially the SMS. Very important. You really can memorize your bank balance, shared or post POS ATM receipts. Now, don't go jogging while it's dark. You should be smarter than that. If it's possible, get someone trusted as company. Always lock your doors, even if you are going out to switch off your generator. Now, never wear your work ID outside your work. No one needs to know where you work. Be accountable to people who are close to you. Let someone know where you are at every point. As much as you can, don't send kids alone on errands outside your house. They are soft targets. Don't forget, rape has been on the increase, and somebody can kidnap your child. And we'll move on to number 11. Don't try to show that you are the richest in the neighborhood by making large donations in your estate meetings. Learn modestly. And then, of course, don't be blasting music and now, when you give modestly and privately. Learn to stay. I can't spare that amount now. Don't stay late in your office long after closing hours. The deadline work can be done later at home. If you wish, make safety the #1 factor in your decision always. Mind what you post about yourself on social media. Very, very important. And that's how I want to end with the security tips for today. We are all learning. And if you have many, why not share them with friends and take lessons from what I've told you. Wisdom, Hede Joma, will be with us shortly. Nana Abena will not be with us today. She is down with malaria. My catcher say, yeah, on immune boosters. I'm say we jainum kakra. And Nyamiadum, I'm sure she'll be well, very well. She'll be well tomorrow. Sorry for the slip. I'm ending the show for now for the news. When I come back, I'll tell you more about what Africa Education Watch is actually painting about WAEC and such exams.
are one man short. Should we invite him?
Yeah.
It be old cargo.
Can I join you guys?
Yeah.
Always brave, fresh, natural, X, mineral, water.
You still got it.
Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
And a very good morning to you. Many thanks for joining TVXYZ News in brief this morning. Coming up, Defense Minister justifies chartered flight. Nana Akufo-Addo can't even shower in Ghana's presidential jet. Too small for large delegation. Luggage. This morning we have details for you. Also in this bulletin, Africa Education Watch releases damning report on mass leakages through closely knit network in the 2020 WASI, and a little later. Ejumako Enyan SM DCE present 500 desks to 4 deprived schools. Details in a bit. My name is Wisdom Hedejumemini. Thanks for your company. As always, let's begin the stories from the controversial presidential jet. And finally, government confirmed the president indeed travels around the world in an expensive chartered flight. Now, the response justifies MP for Northern Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa's allegations that government spent over 2.8 million cedis flying for just 23 hours in all as he travels to 3 countries. That is France, Belgium, and South Africa recently. Now, Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwu says the presidential jet is too small for President Akufo-Addo's large delegation and doesn't have a shower for him to freshen up before meetings. Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwu's attempt to justify President Akufo-Addo's luxurious chartered flight has stoked more angry reactions. In short, he says the presidential jet is not convenient, has limited space and can only take a maximum of 11 passengers minus crew. Small luggage compartment has to be refueled several times, which makes the aircraft not fit for purpose, especially for long trips to eastern part of the US and Asia. Again, the presidential jet has no bathroom, as he puts it, quote, in fact, the president would have to go a day ahead because no president can shower in his aircraft. He cannot move from this aircraft straight to a meeting.
Boeing business jet, which is a BBJ, and I'll continue to refer to it as a BBJ, and the Falcon 900 EX EasyJet, though he knew at that time that he would not use them during his time as president. Mr. Speaker, the BBJ could carry over 100 passengers and about 40 passengers on VVIP settings, and it was intended for long-haul journeys and also to act as a strategic airlift.
Dominic Nitiwu was answering an urgent question filed by MP for Northern Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa on Anado's recent 3-nation trip to France, Belgium and South Africa, which cost the nation a whopping 2.8 million cedis for a total number of 23 hours in the air on an expensive chartered flight. Mr. Ablakwa reviewed that the Airbus ACJ320neo, owned by Acropolis Aviation based in Founder of UK and registered as GKELT, is the most luxurious and the most expensive in the Acropolis fleet. It cost the Ghanaian taxpayer approximately £15,000 an hour when President Akufo-Addo rents it. Again, The jet can take up to 150 people in ordinary circumstances. However, it has been figured to accommodate only 17 royal passengers. The spectacularly opulent aircraft comes equipped with a lavish master bedroom, an imposing ensuite bathroom, monarchical dining facility, and round-the-clock IT connectivity. But Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwul, in his justification, said if the president is traveling with more than 20 people like he does for business trips, it would mean some would have to go a day before his arrival.
Currently, when the president uses the Falcon 900 EasyJet, most of these other necessary staffers travel commercial with increased costs, as well as suffering attendant delays in transit because of the lack of direct flights to ultimate destinations. Because of the lack of direct flight to the ultimate destinations, Mr. Speaker, where the president has to travel to 2 or 3 destinations on a trip, 2 or 3 separate staff units have to be deployed to each of these countries.
Now, ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who broke the news, says the minister's justification for the waste of the taxpayers' money is an insult. He spoke to the parliamentary press corps.
Norton, in his press briefing, first flagged the manner in which the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament conducted proceedings. In his protest, he suggested it reflected an attempt to prevent probing follow-up questions.
The excuse we have been given today, that because of COVID, it will take 2 hours and the president will have to be out there and be exposed to COVID, is not tenable. With all due respect, it's a cock and bull story. We are not buying it. It's like Wababe Yaye. It's just an insult to the Ghanaian people. It does not make sense. You don't see the head and tail.
Mr. Blakwa described the justification, citing the president's comfort at the expense of the sweat under the current harsh economic conditions Ghanaians are facing, and at the time Ghana is globe-trotting, begging for money, as very unfortunate.
Send a second deputy speaker. The way our chair proceedings, questions now, for the defense minister to explain to us the state of the presidential jet. Say presidential jet, BBAC, and I say okay now. The way the second deputy speaker, or yes, or Gagi, 1 year there. Now, you person moving forward, you person second deputy speaker, or be conducting business.
It is not clear if, after the expose and the heightened public interest, the president will continue to charter the luxurious jet. Few days ago, the president, who traveled to Burkina Faso to commiserate with them after the terrorist attack, used Ghana's presidential aircraft, raising eyebrows. It was not until yesterday that the defense minister made the public aware that the same Falcon 900 EX, which reportedly developed a fault when the president flew in it to Washington, U.S. in September 2018, does not have enough space now for his delegation.
Well, let's focus on another sensitive issue, but this time on education, because the African Education Watch has released a report on that expose on a grant scheme involved in the widespread leakage in the 2020 WASSCE. Now, it says here that there was a closely knit network involving examiners that released questions and answers to students hours before their exams.
The initiative forms part of efforts to improve access in the Jimako Enyan Isiam district of the Central Region.
Something unprecedented happened last year, and that should be a wake-up call for all of us who may have taken for granted pockets of reports of malpractices, exam leakage, all this while, to begin to look at our assessment system and how we can collectively set an agenda to review the system and strengthen its efficiency to maintain credibility. On the 17th of August 2020,
The expose touches on how WAEC questions are leaked to students, connivance by invigilators, and related concerns, which will in the coming days fuel the ensuing controversy over results. Africa Education Watch alleges that the practice cuts across both the basic and SHS level. The report claims most students get leaked BEC and WASI questions through social media, in most cases hours before they sit for the exams. Addressing the media at the launch of the independent report, Executive Director of Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, said what should baffle many is how the leakages occur, especially when they pass through the Ghana Education Service and the police stations.
The spreadsheet contained 1,520 names, telephone numbers, email addresses, residential addresses, the schools, subject areas of examiners who were markers of WAEC, and they were markers at the secondary school level. Reportedly, the list that WAEC had intended to use to mark WASI 2020, and it leaked on the 17th of August, just when the examinations were starting. So when our source from within the platform that the Excel sheet was leaked shared it, we wanted to first verified and realized that yes, it was a credible list, because obviously, having been in the business for about 20 years, we know a lot of markers and examiners, and confirmed that yes, the information was credible.
Africa Education Watch listed a page on Telegram called Hot Stage as the widely patronized source of leaked questions. Other pages on Facebook include WAEC Security Room and WAEC Strong Room, which he alleges has over 1,050,000 members awaiting to be fed with questions.
Over 150,000 members on that particular page. That was the main source of the distribution of these questions. So Hot Stage gets the questions. They announce that the questions are in. And note, not only for Ghana, there were Nigeria and Ghana questions on Hot Stage. So the questions are in. Immediately, the announcement is made, then they will direct all members on the platform to a certain paid WhatsApp group. So our sources were on the Telegram, but they were not on the paid one. So they will move them to the paid platform, and then they will share the questions. And then the answers will come around 4 a.m. 1 hour.
He said investigations confirmed a Telegram page called Hot Stage to be one of the widely patronized sources of leaked examination papers during the 2020 WASI. The social media platform, which had over 70,000 subscribers at the time of the 2020 WASI, now has over 160,000 subscribers, released questions and answers at the dawn of the ensuing exams.
Normally 1 hour or 1.5 hours to the start of the paper, then they will share the questions on the free platform, which is the Hot Stage, for 1 hour. 1 hour, most students are on their way to the examination hall. So just to encourage others to pay and then be on the paid platform. So that was the process. And after the commas too, it continued. In fact, with the exception of social studies and integrated science, every question leaked. With the exception of social studies, integrated science. And the leak was so widespread that it wasn't restricted to only WAEC. NAPTEX, technical school examinations, also leaked in the same order, on the same platforms.
Now we're still staying with education, because the DCE for Ejumako Enyan Esiam has presented 500 desks to deprived schools in that district. Now, Central Regional Correspondent Nana Tevia filed this report.
The initiative forms part of efforts to improve access in the Ejumako Enyan Esiam district of the Central Region. The beneficiaries of 500 dual desks are Ejumako Asasan, Babenso, Bofredu, and Ingazi Basis schools. The DCE, Emmanuel Ransford Kwesinyako, who spoke to our Central Regional correspondent, Nana Teria, said, this is not the first time deprived schools are receiving support through his collaboration with Get Fund and the GMPC Foundation.
Stitch in time saves 9. See, we here the crane at 12. Just go booming ma etum ayini ma ochinibi megwano achara ma yen ngwani nyama ozi yen papa ba ko ife GMP's foundation was be ya ono obi sorry investing standard.
He admitted there are more challenges including infrastructure and pledged to work harder to address them.
Well, there in the next 5-6 years etum yes solve the infrastructure needs. The assembly itself is also committed, and in the next couple of months there are about 2,000 or 3,000
Now, back here in Accra, staff of the Bus Rapid Transit, otherwise known as Ayalolo, have vowed to flash out hawkers and other groups who are gradually encroaching their premises. Now, I was there to find out more, and you'll appreciate their concerns in this report I've heard from location. Ayalolo drivers and management are up in arms against one man they are accusing of mismanaging the place by leasing it to private owners to sell, make it a storeroom, and also park their cars here. They say though the facility is managed by both them, Ayalolo, and STC, the rampant abuse of the facility is becoming one too many. They cannot understand why they have to pay for the parking bay as well as use the toilet facilities and other washrooms here they have to pay for, and now they are resorting to using the back of these walls for where they can have place of convenience. Their drivers cannot have a place to lay their heads after a long journey, and a whole lot of other issues which is affecting the already struggling Ayalolo. Theodore Okanse is monitoring and evaluation manager for the company.
So operationally we are tight. We don't know what to do. And the facility is ours. And we are being harassed to pay rent. You can't use your own facility. The offices that we have has been locked. We just need, I will show you where conductors come to do their sales. And you realize that if we, God forbid, any bad person decides to come here with guns and motorbikes, they would decimate the place. You see? And we've consistently asked severally. We have not. They ignore us. They ignore us. So today, it is enough. It is enough.
The drivers who are at the suffering end tell me it is very difficult for them to even turn because of the number of cars parked in between their lanes, and the hawkers who have also used this place as their new abode. Promise Komla Bamaga is PRO for the Ayalolo Drivers Union.
Difficult for us to maneuver, park and all those things insofar as the long luxury is concerned. So that is where we need your help so that you can go to the media or Ghana as a whole. So much, and all our facilities have been locked up. There is no access. Even the bus must park according to how we learn. But because of the small cars parked here, in which the private institutes have been taking money from them, we are finding it very difficult to park.
So attempt by TVXYZ News to speak to Nana Buje, who is the accused person here, has since proved unsuccessful. Well, for TVXYZ News, Westdom, Heather Jume. Now, let's still stay in Accra because the Aboso-Okan spare parts dealers suspect arson in the fire that raised down structures at that particular area last dawn. Now, let's hear their reasons in the following report.
Witnesses say the fire, which started around 4 a.m., swept through at least 10 other structures within the Aboso-Okan spare parts hub in Accra, destroying wares values in hundreds and thousands of cedis. The inferno and the accompanying thick smoke, as seen in a viral video obtained by TVXYZ News, reportedly triggered panic because of its closeness to Aboso-Okan Chief's palace. Though the National Fire Service team arrived late, their effort saved major disaster. At the time of our news visit, Those affected were still counting their losses. TVXYZ News gathered most of the items destroyed were combustible products, including car plastics, interior decor parts, among others. Some of the traders who spoke to our news team suspect arson.
Media me say planting. Say we no say we dia. Media. Ko time na da ho no. Enye we have smokers in this country. Dodo say na asi wo krom ha. Dodo say na asi kro we yankasa.
One two pay from that police also one called deep to investigation. Let me put the damage humanity. Mama one thing that crowd one my young nipa na answer because I had ma mobu bokano foforo person esia e bi obey more than we.
O share a planting, enye bibia a planting, but enye the matter of we there. How the better honey, who coaching crowd by no better. Yeah, far safe.
Leadership of the Abosokan Spare Parts Dealers Association are expected to meet today to plan how to raise funds as a startup for those who have virtually lost their investment. Sian Opoku is the co-chairman of the Abosokan Spare Parts Dealers.
We are going to have a meeting this afternoon. We will discuss it. After the discussion, we will let you know. We will let them know what we intend to do so that they will be, the heart will come down, because for now, we don't have anything to say now. We don't have anything to do now. I have informed the assemblyman. I have informed the more people here. So we will pursue to it to see what they can do to support them.
And before we go, doctors at the Kasiebo Teaching Hospital have successfully removed pallets from the chest of a 35-year-old driver of the bullion van attacked by armed robbers on Monday at the Jamestown here in Accra. Now, one of the surgeons, Dr. Frederick Quating, who spoke in a radio interview, said the victim, identified as Eric Autry, suffered bullet penetrations in various parts of his body, including his chest, limbs, and forearms. Now, he is in stable condition. Now, meanwhile, the police has promised 20,000 cedi reward for any informant whose role leads to the arrest of the suspect on the run. And that'll be it for this morning's edition of News in Brief or Morning Update. Good morning.
Peace of mind is very essential in your journey to success. For Akwesi Papa, peace of mind means having a proper covering over his family. Literally. For Araba, aka Injection Mama, it's about having the funds to complete her advanced nursing course. And as for Corporal Odami, it's as simple as reporting on time for his shifts. Sometimes all you need is a simple push. At Needs Microfinance, we have tailor-made loan packages for salaried workers under the Controller General's Department. With the low interest rate and quick wahala-free process, you are guaranteed of a timely solution to get back that peace of mind, literally in 30 minutes. Needs Microfinance. Growing with you.
We are one man short. Should we invite him?
Yeah.
It be old cargo.
Can I join you guys?
Yeah. Always brave, fresh, natural, X, mineral, water.
Still got it.
Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Welcome back. This is TV XYZ. You can always follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Just go there, like our page, share with a few friends. And I've always told you that once you like the page, at any time that TV XYZ is live on air with any exciting program, it pops up, it reminds you, and you can follow what we do. We try to be as fair as possible. Our interest is national. And so, we work at the region on man. Inti nzama ye no nyede bia ye wo adwene boni binti but yenze nyede se no korn da ho aka as plain as it should be. Now also chrewadwen. Now you must also be reminded that this program is also live on Wezo TV on Facebook. Like them and follow us as well. And so we have a huge platform, and if you want to do business, why not join us, because we have a large following and you'll be surprised at the results that you will get. Abena ha na menyemde maso black secret no me used to be. Na on waka ye besia dinti, and most of the time no amanfo say na besia fonkwete na way makeup. Me benyimfo so ye makeup. Enti obi say oh muhu aboa na wenyim yam star be ba muhu TV do na wenyim afa ni nyina or black secret. They have the best medical tools that they use to make sure that you don't have any skin infections. In fact, they have one, and let me quote the word they use, dermatologically tested, and they are talking about their facial wipes. So a user on chemical be ma wenyim on be safuni bi o wa ehwe wenyim na odru stage bi a onam there we use makeup bodamfo bi for a long time no e be hwe na wana afo ncheni mu no na wa atwentwom. I don't know how to say it in English. Wa atwentwom bi a wrinkle, maybe if it's appropriate, go for black secret. Na ni nyina nature no what's in the nsupa nsu obabo, because nsu de ogina umoje numa oma honam no ho ba no. And of course you need about 60-70% of this in your body, and I always recommend X Natural Mineral Water. Ewudam bottle ya very very sexy. I use sexy and only nature no yawo tenten bi so wo ho na seto education obi birthday obi kwato ne bedzin education. Apart from that, our office very corporate, a party, weddings, in fact large events, na just come to TVXYZ premises here. Depo bi wa ha ebetumi tunu dodo na edzako amanfuru tu. So at any time, just follow us. Now, X Natural Mineral Water, make sure numbers be with you. Numbers in here 0540-585-599, 0243-249-245, and also 0578-265-35, and 0560-273-546. From time to time, these numbers will pop up on the screen. Now, we will through the black secret does the magic. Now, I want us to talk about education. Because Dodonara, it's in the report that was put together by Africa Education Watch. One executive director makes some worrying revelation. Na Kasiebo also they have been doing this for a long time. And again, he says that, look, it is not that it is not new, but how things went especially last year with WASI, it was very shocking. And they took their time to do the investigations, and the network was exposed. And they have done their double checks, and they are sure of what they are talking about. At that event, which is a Zoom conference virtually held, I saw NAGRAD president who was part of the conversation, several well-known academicians who were part of it. But I have just packaged the summary of what Africa Education Watch has to share with us. Listen.
Activities had a leaked Excel spreadsheet. The spreadsheet contained 1,520 names, telephone numbers, email addresses, residential addresses, the schools, subject areas of examiners who were markers of WAEC, and they were markers at the secondary school level. Purportedly, the list was the list that WAEC had intended to use to mark WASI 2020. And it leaked on the 17th of August, just when the examinations were starting. So when our source from within the platform that the Excel sheet was leaked, shared it, we wanted to first verified and realized that yes, it was a credible list, because obviously, having been in the business for about 20 years, we know a lot of markers and examiners, and confirmed that yes, the information was credible. Then this came at the back of years of questions leaked, and then WAEC attempts to resolve the leakage from the symptomic aspects, always look at the symptoms. WAEC introducing calculators that do not record data, banning the use of mobile phones in examination halls, and lots of interventions, all aimed at preventing students from copying or smuggling foreign materials into the room without any intervention targeting the root cause of the leakage. So this informed our decision to launch an inquiry into the matter and see how we can assist WAEC to resolve this issue once and for all. The methodology that was adopted was mainly key informant interviews. We had key informant interviews with 26 actors within the examination value chain, starting from WAEC, people who are staff of WAEC, contractors of WAEC. And if I say contracted, I'm talking about WAEC supervisors, invigilators, etc. We had discussions with examiners, markers, journalists, and students and teachers, especially headmasters, about how to, about what the real causes of the exam or exam questions leakage were, and how it affected the quality of our examination or assessment system at the public pre-tertiary level, and what can be done to strengthen it. We also spoke to former WAEC members. We spoke to teachers and head teachers in 2 other countries, in Liberia and then also in Nigeria, to test the waters about how the situation was there. And obviously it wasn't different. Anyway, why are we interested in this? WAEC is a contractor that has been engaged by the government to assess Ghanaian students after they have been taught by teachers under the Ghana Education Service. So WAEC has been engaged by the government of Ghana to assess and certify these students. Now, WAEC, in undertaking this function, and again, WAEC works in 5 countries, in Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Gambia, and Nigeria. In undertaking this function, WAEC has as its core aim to conduct examinations in the public interest. That's one, underlying public interest, and also in line with the British standards of examination. So these are the 2 things WAEC has published on its website as its core aims: to conduct examinations in the public interest, and also in line with the standards consistent with those of the British examining boards. Now, WAEC is, as we said, is currently seen as semi-autonomous, according to its act. I think it's Act 419 or so, yeah. And then However, within the framework that it operates, there is no formal accountability framework within which government can hold WAEC responsible, because I'm saying it's a contractor. WAEC is a contractor, an intergovernmental contractor working in 5 countries delivering assessment services.
Those are excerpts of the presentation by Africa Education Watch. In fact, Kofi Asare is the executive director, and it's a long presentation, about 1 hour, 30 minutes. In summary, he talks about, and in fact, he provides evidence that suggests that the exam papers or the bags in which the exam questions are tampered with, broken at offices where these exam questions are supposed to be kept. And it makes reference that the exam questions, after they leave WAEC, go through GES and the Ghana Police Service. And I'm sure you heard in the presentation that they did checks and they verified that of the many people they have put on some of these specially created platforms where the leakages are shared and managed, that's what they do. So it's a comprehensive report that they did. We are yet to hear from WAEC, but the fact is it raises serious concerns. Jonathan Asante Ochre is a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. I have decided to speak to him as somebody who has closely monitored this particular sector and will share with us what they also know and the concern they have. Jonathan, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Eric.
How is Cape Coast?
Well, Cape Coast is okay. At the moment, I was a bit under the weather, so I had to come to Takoradi to relax, at least to take out some of the stress.
Okay, I'm also told that you sometimes have to spend time out with friends, laugh a little, and just ease your nerves. I'm sure you are adding that.
Certainly.
In Takoradi, I'll take you...
You know that in no time, schools will resume, the tertiary institutions, University of Cape Coast, University of Ghana too, they are virtually running a double-track system. And so in no time, the 400s and the 100s will come back, and the postgraduate will come. And then after that, the 200s and the 300s will come back. So you can see that the system is very stressful. And so you have to be shuttling in and out to ensure that things are done properly, all in the name and the service of the country.
While you are in Takoradi, let me speak a little Tadi fancy. Senyum House 2, from the airport runabout towards, how do you call it, Chapel Hill, some joint to be in from pa. Oya nakatna wana aji wenyo kakra.
Only those years in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh no, Rebecca Harbour View, anamwa. Katina Harbour View, anasham frama. And actually feelings kakra. Okay, Jonathan, let's now talk about what bothers many of us. Africa Education Watch has put out a report. First, have you seen it? Have you followed the conversation they've put out there?
Yes.
Now, how did it come to you?
Well, let me say good morning to the viewers of XYZ television. I think that it's quite revealing. And you could see that the amount of research that has gone into this particular work that Africa Education Watch has done is really tremendous. And I've been following Mr. Asare over the period, and most of the things that he comes up with are based, well solid, and they are really factual. And I doff my heart out for such a personality and the team that he's been working with. It's been very consistent, and you can see that there is nothing political about what he does, but just to point out the issues as they appear. And I think that is the more reason why I've been following him and I doff my heart out for it.
Now, let's break down the concerns raised. First, it talks about the credibility of the certificates issued by WAEC. And for that reason, they have to ensure that it's safeguarded. We'll look at the tail end of his submission where he makes a request that the monopoly by WAEC should be broken so that it will be more competitive. He also talks about the fact that the quality of the certificate affects the integrity of the system in general. But first, the value chain. He talks about WAEC putting out questions for different countries. We know the process. It goes through the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Education Service for safekeeping, and then virtually it ends up with the students when they have to sit for the papers. He talks about the compromise at that level, involving invigilators, involving teachers, involving stakeholders whose interest should rather have been to protect WAEC, to ensure that we have a credible exams. How do you want to speak to this aspect of the concern where all those who must be part of ensuring the integrity is safeguarded are rather deeply involved?
Well, Eric, I think Mr. Asari really nailed everything. To be frank with you, any activity that you have too many human interventions, along the value chain would definitely be compromised, because you cannot tell the moral turpitude of someone by looking at the person's face. Therefore, whenever you are putting in structure, you just have to ensure that the human discretion is quite limited, because obviously you need human beings. But when you limit the human intervention and discretion, that is when you have integrity of this whole process, or the whole value chain that Mr. Asari put out there. So he suggested something like going digitized.
Mm-hmm.
And to digitize is very fast and speed. So by the time you say, Jack, everything, every document that ought to be placed or be positioned, will have been there. So somebody does not need to carry a letter just to post it from wherever. By virtue of email, by virtue of digitization, by virtue of internet, you just have that facility, before you within seconds. So if you look at the value chain, we ought to have trusted the human integrity, because having done this, over the years, we expected that, those who are the helm of affairs would not be compromised along the line. But you look at the research and the product of the research that they brought out with evidence, it tells you that, as you rightly put it, the integrity of the certificate, is at stake. And we are the same, branch of people who will say that, well, those who have been coming out, those who've been churning out from the SHS level, whatever, from BECE to SHS, there's nothing to write home about. But you see, all of this have come about because of something. And I am telling you that it is because government panicked. Government has not had, a foothold on the integrity of the free SHS that they've churned out there, for which reason you could see the hand of government, the interventions that they had to put across, securing past questions for the first time in the history of the country, that the whole government is securing something of that sort. We know that it is the individual students who do that. And some of them, this is a poor, which, may not necessarily be the case. But if you look at the interventions of government because of the free SHS, they felt that if those interventions are not made, then obviously there's some likelihood of a disaster along the line.
Okay,
and these interventions of government in itself created some kind of ownership among the students, to the effect that, well, government is on our side. We need to pass by hook or by crook. And so you could see what happened. Students attacking the invigilators, those who were even accusing, insulting president, and so on and so forth. All these things came. We saw it. Now, that kind of, bizarre ownership on the part of the student was something that was created by the panicky situation that the government found itself, for which reason it influenced the intervention government, brought across the line.
Mr. Santi, let's break the issues down further. Now, according to Africa Education Watch, for example, a Telegram page called Hot Stage was created and widely patronized. And there was a Facebook page and a WAEC security room and a WAEC strong room. And all these had over 1,050,000 members. He goes ahead to talk about Hostage, where the questions are released some hours before it's written, and then just immediately they go to a paid-for WhatsApp group. And that is where the questions are answered and supplied to the students at least hours before they go to sit the exams. Now, we all know what happened during the exams. Now, if WAEC as an examining body has not been able to come out openly to speak to some of these issues Africa Education Watch has exposed, does it suggest that WAEC has either been compromised or WAEC is perhaps playing silent on a serious issue to save its integrity over the years, but which has been dented by this crime which seemed to be well organized? And how do we deal with WAEC? How do we deal with GES? Because at the end of the day, it affects the image of the country and the kind of education and certification systems that we have.
Well, Eric, I don't think that we'll be able to solve this particular issue just by this interview. It needs a concerted effort of all educationists, of all stakeholders. Because whenever an institution becomes a monopoly, obviously there is that lack of accountability. And when I listened to Mr. Sari, he virtually made me understand that if you go to the UK, for example, there is that kind of accountability. But when it comes to this country, and for WAEC to be organizing things of that nature over the period, with that lack of accountability in itself could be the source of some of these abuses. GES, in what way is GES accountable? And you could see that though WAEC is supposed to be a semi-autonomous institution, they ought to have been accountable to the institution that gives them the autonomy. But as it stands now, as you said, looking at the value chain, looking at what has come out, WAEC, in no uncertain term, I don't see how WAEC will be able to come out. Because whichever way they have X that have been splashed on their faces, now they have to sit down, ponder, and see how they can reclaim that particular lost image. As I said, you see, you could see that there was, I would not hold brief, for the previous years, because over the years, students have always tried to get, questions beforehand. It is something that, whether it is a poll or trying to preempt the questions that ought to come and so on and so forth. So some of these things will be bandied about here and there. But if you look at the research and the findings and the evidence that Africa Education Watch has brought out, it tells you that WAEC has been compromised. And those who are calling for a demonopolization, as it were, to ensure that there is some kind of decoupling of that particular institution, I don't know how they want to do that, because in whichever way, what we don't like in the system is coming out with other institutions that in itself will compromise the integrity of the certificate that will come out. Because the integrity of the certificate that will come out is very crucial. It is not everybody that will end up in the university, but those who end up with the SHS certificate, it should be valuable. Because if you find yourself clerical levels, providing some kind of file services, secretarial services, and so on and so forth, at that particular level, when you supply that certificate to whichever institution or company or manufacturing company, it should be valuable enough, and you should be able to prove yourself. Believe me, Mr. Yayo, sometimes some of these candidates who come out and come into the university, they just cannot even put one sentence correctly. They just cannot. Some say they did French, they got B+, and yet they just cannot even construct French sentences.
Okay, so Mr. Asante,
it means that, as the African Education Watch said, invigilators are compromised. Mobile phones find themselves in the examination room. People just pull them out. And you need the connivance of all, the police. You need the connivance of the invigilators, and you need the student as well, plus whoever is making the payment. So at the end of the day, you may have a higher score, Ghana scoring this, Ghana scoring that. But the level at which the 2020, the level of the compromise of the integrity of the exams and its conduct, is something that has raised its ugly head as far as the educational system is concerned. And in no time, you will see its reflection at the tertiary level.
And that is the concern we are trying to address at this time. Now, there is a controversy. I remember Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman raised the issue that, look, it is not about fanfare, as we have heard government officials put out there, that Ghana had the highest in terms of those who had 8 A's or 7 A's after the WASI, and it reflects the quality of the free SHS program. And the quality of the free SHS program is a subject that is under debate as we speak. Now, as we see this development come up, and most especially when anytime such mass exams are written, like WAEC exams or process of assessing the students goes on, we know national security is embedded there as part of the process to protect the integrity of the system. Now, where we are, if national security has not put that out, and maybe the president has been misled that the 8 A's are indeed genuine, should the universities be introducing entrance exams to protect their own certification system? Because when these students go en masse into our public universities or private universities, it could be another era of concern that may affect the universities and the integrity they have at this time.
Well, Mr. Anyanya, you see, don't forget that some years back, when the senior high school system was introduced, at first the university was 3 years. But when it was introduced, you know, it was at the teething stage, the nascent stage. So those are the universities at the tertiary levels felt that no, there was a need to introduce entrance exams. Now, that in itself became a problem because some who genuinely might have done well, then the entrance exams, you know, become something that will be a sieving ground. And, excuse my language, sometimes they say examination favors the fool. Those who might have not done well, but they might have passed minimally, will find themselves, you know, pass these entrance exams. Whichever way there is, you can see the human beings there as well. So in the wisdom of educational professionals, they felt that then let us increase the number of years from 3 to 4 for those who are coming from that particular. And when you come to the University of Cape Coast, for example, we always say that the level 100 is the ground where we sieve the wheat from the chaff. So if you use the dubious means to obtain the grade at the SHS level, University of Cape Coast, you will get sacked. Because once you fail a number of subjects, even today we have become a bit magnanimous by increasing the number of credit hours that when what a student fails, you know, you will have the opportunity to be right. At first, you just failed just by number of courses. You failed 3 courses, whether it's a first, it's 1 credit, 2 credit, 3 credit. Once you feel that, you are out of the system. We felt that, you know, it was quite harsh. So we have increased it as much as up to about 12 credit or so, just to, you know, accommodate quite a number of people because, you know, training your child or a ward in the university costs money. And so having trained through the PEC, the SSS, today SHS, and so on and so forth, you know, the system felt that it was quite too harsh. So there was a need to be a bit magnanimous to ensure that we have such, you know, quite a number. You go to the University of Ghana, for example, now because of free SHS, they have increased the number of intake. And they're supposed to do this double track, you know, for at least about 2 years or so, you know, and to allow all of them to come back to campus, you could see that it's going to affect this COVID, you know, issues and so on and so forth. But all other things being equal, the quality of the education at the SHS level, even at the BEC level, is something that leaves much to be desired.
Okay, so
I wouldn't blame entirely our current government. I mean, it is something, it's a product over the years, but it has even become a more worse, you know, in our period, in our current period. And as I told you, government acted in a panicky manner because you are creating the impression that the free SHS is of high quality when it is not. You are rather interested in accessibility. Now, you see, I have sat down and realized that if we are talking about accessibility, less of quality. In the end, all these top-notch, schools, the Timothées, the Agri Memorials, the Nationals, the Holy Charles, the Wesley Girls, and so on and so forth, all in no time could be compromised. That is the more reason why government ought to invest in the infrastructure and the human resource. It is not just about lip service. There is supposed to be that kind of investment. Believe me, when you are asking this number of people to come to the universities, for example, through free SHS, you don't expect them that once they have gotten the needed grades, they will want to stay there. Their parents will go for the necessary loans and get them into the universities. What infrastructure development have you been seeing at the university level?
Okay, Mr. Asante, just pause there. I'll give you a minute to wrap up. We've done quite a long conversation, and it's been very instructive. Last question. What do you expect the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education Service, to do at this time? The teacher unions, what must they collectively do or demand at this time?
They must speak truth to power. We need to see the unions come out. Head teachers who feel that they are under pressure and tension because resources do not come readily, they need to speak up so that government that considers PSHS as its flagship, they must put their money where their mouth is so that we do not compromise the integrity. Already compromised what? The integrity of education has already been compromised at that level. We do not have to compromise it a bit further. Government ought to be pressured to ensure that resources are readily released and that the headmasters and the head teachers do not ask parents to pay whatever contribution and so on. It tells you that the quality, the issue of availability of resources is something that is putting pressure on the head teachers because you cannot look at these students as they go hungry.
Okay.
You may have exhausted your 30% that is awarded you. The 70 is coming from the buffer and government and so on and so forth. So if those things are not coming, which constitute the majority, it will affect the quality of education. Anybody, any human being cannot learn when one is hungry.
Okay.
So we
Mr. Asante,
expect the unions to back these teachers and let those who are stakeholders speak. That is the only way we can ensure that the education, is of high quality.
thank you very much. Jonathan Asante is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. I leave the rest to you. So, Ewoba Nasa wo schooler, what the bon modern na bon pay, the obenya the best of education. O send the on the form. Say, employ abofraba na se ejumano ontum ya obotum we inedi. That is why they have the probational period. And so it is not fun that omeba waha and the adza was a trend no on kwechi na ayedin o send the owoho. The end effect will be very disastrous. Sometimes I ask myself if the clock was rewound na se nka I was 18 years nka bia madusua obechan da misua ya medzebedru baby amwe, and it means that if I had had the best time and reason and my focus was to learn, ebi anka no baby for it's besi ha ebe call break say ya ba penyufa wa boegwa manyiwa betena ho na newspaper nsama wa ka echiru no edi hu abobo onchire bia mesanaba.
I love makeup. Applying it gives me so much joy. But when it's time to take it off, nothing does the job quite like the Black Secret makeup wipes. When I go somewhere and I feel really sweaty, I take my Black Secret wipe and I use it on my face. It picks me up and I don't look as tired as I did when I walked in.
Before I work on a client's face, I like to go over it with Black Secret makeup wipes to make sure the face is clean. It doesn't leave the face dry and tight, but it keeps it soft and moisturized.
Wipe say your bodo.
Barco pick, and it gets the job done. Or baby, and the smell makes the experience even better.
Masa, tam Maria, I'm kind of coffee. I am doing more budget bonnet jam. Why? Have a beer, you can have a beer. Why?
Aha! It's the logo the bottom. Where you say it's the local channels na mo gano. As a picture see clear. You 5 times better. As other channels that could be your hormone. So go the mention man tram rock why. Oh, what a pictures.
Who knows tomorrow?
What a picture. What do AD plus decoder or multi TV and now Electroland agent PR natural local channels now HD the here is better
star 879 hash
numbers from Kubo box and now the activity 80 channels now.
Get an HD Plus decoder from now till the 9th of August for just $89.99 Ghana cedis and enjoy 3 months free subscription. Enjoy all the excitement and live sports action in the HD Plus Air Bustle Feely promo. Promo lasts from 7th June to 9th August 2021. Visit hd-plus.com.gh or call 024-243-9872 for more info.
Half a nose for good things.
If I cry na menyisika, etia ye mefui.
Ehimfa pa na menya bosia, edia tre medwuma yimu.
Kai cry mabre, me busia ato taxi fufu. Suhum Rural Bank.
Suhum Rural Bank.
Yamamwa baba Suhum Rural Bank. Ya won hyehyɛ ahodoɔ bi te sɛ dwadifo abosia, akuokuro bosia, susu account, and it does wɔ hɔ savings account, me bada chain savings account, and the akeka ho. Suhum Rural Bank was 034229186. Na won so wetumi aka sɛ
Suhum Rural Bank. Ama ene mayeka una.
Suhum Rural Bank. Entime pa minie.
Suhum Rural Bank, growing our heritage.
Welcome back. This is TVXYZ, and of course, follow us on our social media handles. If you're not watching us at home now because you have to move, just continue following us and share with friends, because we want a lot of people to be with us, and let's together share our views, offer our suggestions, criticize, commend, and collectively ensure that we help to shape policies to develop this country. It's now time for newspapers, and today one of the guests is in the studio, Amos Blessing Amose. He is the Greater Accra Regional Deputy Youth Organizer of the NDC. The other guest will join us by phone, and so when we raise him, I'll tell you much about him, and he will be representing the NPP. Now, Amos, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Amos, what does it mean? I didn't grow up in our area. So
That's a powerful name. It means destiny. And,
destiny.
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm a tongue man, so you know.
Yes, your head look like Okujeto's head. Oh, no, it's true. Maybe the tongue people, the small tilapia is too much.
Well, probably.
You eat too much small tilapia.
Probably.
And bovilolo, because you are closer to Sogako.
Probably that has accounted for the head shape, maybe.
As for Okujeto's head, this is the same head, the same color,
maybe
the same diastema.
There's a positive correlation between the small.
But I hear those people to the notebook.
Well, it's to the judgment of
okay, those who will listen to you. So this morning, Amos will be having the discussion with me. Amos, today I want us to focus on what happened in Parliament. It's not only the defense minister who will appear. You know, when the minority leader put in the urgent question, first he wanted to know what was happening at the Kotoka International Airport with regards to the COVID-19 testing. And so we now know that the company which is involved or has the sole monopoly to run tests on passengers arriving, we know how much it bagged over a 4-month period and how much came to the state. That is a conversation on one side. And yesterday, the defense minister was also there, and he's tried to explain why the president will prefer to board private jets, especially because of long distances. One of the explanations was that the Falcon that we are using as presidential jet cannot travel longer distances. And because of COVID and the rush to enter meetings from one location to the other, he has to freshen up, which has been the controversy because they need to refit or maybe change the settings or fittings in the aeroplane, which could have taken 150 to a smaller size so that they can make room for the luxurious fittings that we have seen in the form of pictures. But we just spoke to Jonathan Asante at the University of Cape Coast. For you as a political party, and most especially when one of your finest, the running mate for the 2020 elections, spoke to the issue and the responses that came from government, how do you see the development now with Africa Education Watch putting out some revelation suggesting that indeed we have to take a second look at how WAEC is operating?
Thank you very much once again, and good morning to our viewers. The issue about the report relating to Educational Watch. And the Educational Watch is an institution that we must commend them for the work they have done. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time that we have a detailed report in respect of exams. And you rightly mentioned that one of the finest in Ghana when it comes to education, Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyeman, recently gave a detailed interview, I think on your set, relation to the free SHS. And one of the things she said was that it was a recommendation to government, and it was unsolicited though, that government should admit that we have challenges, that they should, consult all the stakeholders, including herself, so the challenges will be resolved. But you know, this is a government that is so much soaked in pride that they may not want to do that for political reasons, because going to someone like Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyeman, who served as running mate to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, will mean that you have failed as a government and you needed the input of the opposition, which in any institution or in any country should not be a challenge at all, because we are building a nation, but they will not do. But I think with what we have seen and the revelation from African Watch, their report, the best thing to do now is to fall on the advice of Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyeman.
So will it stop at maybe the request, or you begin processes of consultations with key stakeholders so that collectively that pressure perhaps will be heavier on authority to see the need to call the roundtable conference? Because the narrative from government officials is that they continue to engage stakeholders, they seek input. And so at the moment, it is not as scary as the NDC, which is politicizing the impact and the concerns being raised now, which is really making the whole thing look like it's as bad as you think as a political animal.
This is not about NDC. What we are discussing now is a report from an independent organization. Educational Watch is not an offshoot of the NDC. This is an independent organization interested in educational matters in this country. They have come up with a 21-page report. If you read the report, you come to a firm conclusion that even the picture NDC we have painted, they have even painted a gloomy picture as compared to what the picture the NDC has painted. Because if you read that report, it tells you how even students, and we read it even in the news before Educational Watch, captured it in their report, that students are sorted invigilators because they thought the invigilator was too strict. And in fact, government itself sold out past questions to students under the pretext that that is the question that they would see when they sit for the exams. And it happened that when they started, the exams commenced, they didn't see anything like that. And that was when some of the students were even bad-mouthing the president.
So we know that story. Maybe the conversation cannot be overstretched. So I'll leave it here. I'll take your comments later on this program. And today I'll take the comments early because one of our guests is not in the studio. And so we'll spend some time with Amos and then leave some space for those comments that will come by WhatsApp. And the numbers are on the screen, 0556 999 999. Now, I want us to move straight to this controversy that we cannot stop discussing. It's about Dominic Nitwool. I don't know whether he's inspired. I don't know how government is dealing with him as an individual, if indeed what he said is not part of what was written as a response to the question asked by MP for Norton. But wherever Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is, I think he needs a big pat on the back. If he can sustain this, like what other MPs would have to do, I'm sure that we'll see Parliament acting as what the Speaker recently said, that if Parliament acts as a proper checkmate to ensure that the executive does the right thing, Parliament would have been acting in the interest of the public which votes them into the offices they hold. But if MPs will go there and just enjoy the luxury around the offices they hold and move around with all the honorable connotations that people have for them without ensuring that they work in the interest of the people, then they are equally failing the state. So personally, I would say congrats to Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, because when government responded, government did not deny that what he put out there was wrong. But government has rather stoked a controversy. And that is in this response you want to hear from Dominic Nitwool himself. I just want us to listen to him briefly, and then we'll talk.
Mr. Speaker, when this aircraft is traveling, in practical experience, since it was acquired and delivered in 2010, whenever the aircraft is traveling to the eastern part of the United States or Asia, the aircraft will not load crew more than 8 plus the luggage. So it depends on where it is going and the payload with it. Secondly, in my answer, I have said that the aircraft has to do refueling stops. When this aircraft is going to the United States, it will do a refueling stop in either Senegal or another island. I've said that before. And I said, in this COVID era, when you are going to travel to multiple destinations, for example, in the president's travel, he went to France, took a train from France to Belgium and back, not with an aircraft. Used cars within his moving, not with an aircraft. And left for South Africa and back to Ghana. And I said that if you wanted to travel, for example, from Europe to South Africa, he has to do a technical stop. And it is not desirable. When a president, as I again said, when a president is traveling with more than 20 people for a business trip, as this president has done, and brought in more than 75 million for this nation, he will need more than just a Falcon. Otherwise, the people would have to go a day ahead of the president to prepare themselves. The president, in fact, has to go a day ahead because no president can shower in this aircraft. You cannot freshen up in this aircraft. So you cannot move from this aircraft straight into a meeting. If you are using a commercial plane, Mr. Speaker, it's the same thing. If you are going and you stop by Emirates, the Dubai government will have to give you courtesies. When you are going to the United Kingdom, the United Kingdom government will have to give you courtesies that are not necessary. That is the reason why the Togo government, the Togo president, Mr. Speaker, in the last ECOWAS meeting for 30 minutes, he chartered the same aircraft.
So you heard Defense Minister Dominic Nitwool. Put your thoughts together and share your opinion with us later on this program. In the studio with me is Amos Blessing Amose. He's the Deputy Youth Organizer of the NDC in the Greater Accra region. Amos, you listen to the minister.
Yes, not only I listened to the minister, but I followed the discussion yesterday in Parliament because I knew he was going to respond to that question yesterday, and I was interested in that question because the first time the Honourable Member of Parliament for North Tongue raised that issue, we're expecting that usual of government, they will respond. But the government did not, there was no response from government, there was no response from party communicators, and we're all waiting patiently that a time will come for them to respond. Then, luckily for us, the Honourable Member himself filed a question in Parliament. Indeed, the question the Honourable Member filed in Parliament was not in relation to the President's travel, the use of a chartered jet. The question he filed was whether our presidential jet was in good condition and airworthy. So that was the question that the Defence Minister was to respond to. Then the Defence Minister appeared in Parliament, decided to take advantage of the question because there was lingering discussion on a chartered jet, which was alleged that it cost us 1,500 pounds.
That's
15,000, sorry.
Pounds
15,000 pounds per hour. So he took advantage to respond. And he sought to justify why the president needed a chartered jet instead of using a presidential jet. And it is very important to indicate that our defense minister stated categorically that our presidential jet was in good condition and is in good condition and airworthy. So the president could have used our presidential jet. But his justification was that our presidential jet needed to be refueled when traveling long distance. And that because of some issues about the president running into meetings, attending multiple meetings, he needed to freshen up. But even that, let's look at what he said, the justification he gave against the facts on the ground. The parliamentary Hansard of 19th March 2008, where the agreement was passed for the purchase of this presidential jet, the then MPP Member of Parliament for Klote Koli, Honorable Edu Mante, who was the chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee, was the one who moved the motion for the approval of the amount for the purchase of the current presidential jet. And in that presidential Hansard, the MPP MP stated that our presidential jet could travel. And in fact, even if you check the website or Google our presidential jet, it is even stated there that could travel between 8 to 9 hours before it will be refueled. Now, when the president traveled to France, from Accra to France is 6.5 hours. Then from France to Johannesburg, South Africa is 11 hours. From Johannesburg, South Africa to Accra again is 5.5 hours. Cumulatively, that is 23 hours. Now we are told by the MPP MP that the presidential jet could travel between 8 to 9 hours before refueling. Now, if you did a trip from Ghana to France,
you don't need
any refueling.
Okay.
So, from the word go, the issue about chartered jets shouldn't have come into the picture.
But he made reference, or in your own submission, you also talk about the fact that from France to Johannesburg is about 11 hours.
Very well. I'll address that issue. So from France to Johannesburg, 11 hours. Refueling, how many hours would it take you to refuel a plane? Even that, let's not limit the discussion to President Akufo-Addo as though he is the first president to use his presidential jet. The presidential jet was used by the late Professor Mills. It was used by the President John Dramani Mahama. So if it was about refueling, they would have been discussing, and MPP, knowing the MPP for who they are, they would have been referencing us to instances where the late Professor Mills and President John Dramani Mahama had to charter a plane because of long distance. But even that, the finance minister again told Parliament that our presidential jet could take only 8 passengers. But in the Hansard, and in fact on the website of even the plane, our presidential jet, when you Google, our presidential jet can take up to maximum of 15 passengers, including the crew. So the assertion that it could take only 8.
What the defense minister said is that it could take a maximum of 11 minus the crew.
Minus the crew.
Obviously, it will fall within the 15 you have
referenced. Even ask yourself, the chartered jet, how many passengers sat in that chartered jet? When you check the website of where they chartered the jet, Acropolis Aviation, it is stated that maximum 17 to 19. And it will only do 19 passengers during the day. In the night, maximum 17. And you know, what we have seen, the opulence of our president, he will never go with a 19 crew or passengers. So between 11, let's even admit that the president used, our presidential jet could only take 8. And the number of people the president traveled with. So because of 4 or 5 people, the country or the poor taxpayer had to bear £15,000 per hour. And the £15,000 per hour, I have calculated the hours here, that 23 hours. 23 hours in monetary terms, you are talking about £345,000, which in Ghana cedi, at the current prevailing rate, we are talking about 2.8 million Ghana cedi. That is 28 million old Ghana cedi. But that was the amount of money we wasted on our president. And when he even traveled, ask ourselves, what did the president travel? What did he do when he traveled to France and to Johannesburg? What was the outcome of his travel? If you listen to Dominic Nitiwul, he makes reference to 170 million, is it euros or dollars? I'm sure it is for the development of the, it's for the creation of the development bank. And the $170 million for the creation of the development bank, I know that as part of the trip, the president had engagement with the European Commission. And so he says it is one of the positives we got from such trips. Is that not fair response? You see, when the president traveled to Paris, on 16th May, when he traveled to Paris, one of the first things he did was to address a summit. At that summit, the president pleaded with the European community for debt forgiveness. Then on 18th, the president who pleaded for debt forgiveness on 16th, on 18th May, the president then appealed to the European Investment Bank for £170 million to establish an investment.
Is it dollars or pounds?
It's pounds. Okay. To establish an investment bank. Mind you, that money is not free. This is the same government shouting on rooftops. They even designed a booklet, Ghana Beyond Aid. If you are talking about Ghana Beyond Aid, you traveled with this opulence, profligate spending, you got £170 million, which is not free anyway. You return and you tell us that because you have gotten that money and you have spent 2.8 million Ghana cedi on your travel alone, we should be applauding you. In any case, it was France that he got the £170 million. What about his trip from France to South Africa, Johannesburg? What did the country benefit from that trip? And even the calculation that we have worked out, we are not talking about when the jets flew from its base in UK to Ghana, and when even it returned from, the president returned from South Africa to Ghana, when the jet moved from Ghana, flew from Ghana to its base in the UK. We have not even added the cost of that. So if you are adding the cost, the hotel bills, the meals, and all the things that you would, I'm told that the honorable member, Honorable Samuel Blakwa, has filed another question requesting the cost of the president's travel, the 10 days travel. And I understand the finance minister also will answer that question today.
Now, but we'll look at that. We'll go into it. But is the NDC not trying to overstretch this issue? Where is the public interest?
The public interest is that we use taxpayers' money to buy a presidential jet. And it is used by president. It was the jet was, I mentioned earlier, was not bought. President Akufo-Addo was not the first person to start using the presidential jet. Presidents before him used that presidential jet. Indeed, when the president returned from South Africa, On 9th June, he used the same presidential jet to Burkina Faso. So it means that the jet is in good condition. So if you have such a jet, and we have a country that we are reeling under debt, the country is in disarray when it comes to infrastructure. When you interviewed the lecturer from University of Cape Coast, he made mention of infrastructure in our universities to accommodate the numbers coming out of the
free SHS.
We have such issues to confront. We are using 2.8 million Ghana cedis to fly a president to another country simply because the presidential jet we have purchased for the use by the president, we are being told that the president cannot freshen up in it. In any case, with due respect to the president, is he an amphibian? When he's in Ghana, he attends multiple meetings. He doesn't freshen up before joining another meeting. 6 hours, unless they are telling us that the president freshens up every hour, even when he's in Ghana. We don't need such amount of money. Looking at the situation we find ourselves, and even the case that the president himself traveled to France to go and beg, cap in hand, begging.
What do you expect to be the outcome? I would want us to listen to Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, and it is instructive to note that he's filing a follow-up question about the cost involved. The cost involved, in my opinion, will be beyond just the flight. The president has to arrive. Cars will chauffeur him, as the minister said, from one location to the other, whether it's free of charge, the hotels that he would perhaps lodge in, the number of people who accompanied the president, who they were and why they were carried along, what roles they were going to play. That will justify the reason why you pay for their hotel bills, pay for their TNT, and of course, some little per diem that will come along. So today, if the finance minister appears before Parliament, it means that a lot of people will be equally interested in what is involved. But government may say that, look, at the end of the day, they have a mandate. The mandate is to solve Ghana's problems. So how they start may not be the issue. How they end could be the issue. And especially, don't forget, this issue has come up before when the president had a number of ministers and he said that the end product is the solution. So maybe the critics may be crying and something different may happen. Now, I wanted to ask you, what do you expect? That the president perhaps may learn lesson from the public outcry, or they perhaps may want to continue to use and justify? I'll be taking a break. Just think about this question. When I come back, I'm sure you will listen. But I'm sure that break would lead us to, I want you to take a breather. Let's listen to Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, because we have other topics to listen to. His reaction after Dominic Ntuul's presentation.
We have been given today that because of COVID, it will take 2 hours, and the president will have to be out there and be exposed to COVID. It's not tenable. With all due respect, it's a cock and bull story. We are not buying it. It's like Wababe Yaye. It's just an insult to the Ghanaian people. It does not make sense. You don't see the head and tail. Send a second deputy speaker. The way our chair proceedings, questions now, for the defense minister to explain to us the state of the presidential jet. Say presidential jet, BBAC, and I say okay now. The way the second deputy speaker, or yes, or Gagi, one yard, yeah. Na your person moving forward, your person second deputy speaker, or be conducting business.
So Okudzeto has spoken. For me, he should be the star among the MPs at this moment. And we want to encourage as many members of parliament on both sides to look at national interest and speak to issues. So it has not stopped there. He's going to probe further. That we expect will be part of proceedings on the floor of parliament today. Now, let's wrap up. What do you expect going forward in the interest of good governance, especially because the president has committed himself severally? He launched the 2030 SDGs just some 2 days ago, and the narrative was that because of good governance, rule of law, respect for human rights, and so on, Ghana is fertile ground for businesses to plow their investments. And he also talked about the financial gap, and the international community is watching us. And I believe that those who want to show interest in Ghana's development would also want to look at how the key actors play their role. What do you expect that government should be doing?
Well, I don't expect anything different from what the government is currently doing, because if the government is sensitive enough to feel the plight of Ghanaians, I'm not sure they would have done what they did in the first place. So for a government like the MPP government, they don't even feel the difficulties that Ghanaians are going through in the country. Because the number of issues we face or problems we face in this country, it is not news to anybody. The young man on the street of Accra or anywhere in this country knows that even the youth, issues of job, issues of accommodation, issues of education are topical issues in this country, and we need to solve it. And if even in our homes, if you don't have money and you have to live on borrowed life, you don't go out there in flashy dress, driving Mercedes-Benz and what have you. You live a moderate life in order for you to get out of the situation. But where we find ourselves in this country, rather the president is digging a deep hole for us to fall in if we are not already not there. Because in the first place, there was no need for us to spend that amount of money on his travel because he had the presidential jet.
That is you looking at the glass half full.
Not necessarily looking at the glass half full. That is the reality where we find ourselves. Where we find ourselves. Not that somebody brought us here, but it is the doing of this same president and his government that we find ourselves here. So if you have brought us here, you should be looking for ways to get us out of the doldrums, not necessarily pushing us deep down the pit. But that is what they are doing, and so I don't expect them to change anything.
Amos Blessing Amose is the deputy youth organizer of the NDC for Greater Accra region. Soon we'll be speaking to a representative of the NPP, and I'm told they are working on the lines to get him. But let's move on to other topics. I've seen rent tax. The Ghana Revenue Authority has put that proposal out, and very soon landlords will be paying rent tax. We know the housing deficit, and we know government has been putting in a lot of effort to increase or bridge that housing deficit. Now, would you say that this rent tax is in national interest because it's a gap that that must be filled, and there'll be no implications?
Well, from where I sit, taxes are not necessarily bad in its sense if it is put to good use. But the situation we find ourselves in this country, and bearing in mind that this government came to power on the back of promises, you recall that one of the charges they leveled against His Excellency John Dramani Mahamat's government was that the NDC government had introduced nuisance taxes, and one of them was ESLA, that they promised they will cancel when the Ghanaians gave them the mandate. Unfortunately, they came to power. They did not do that. Rather, they increased it. Even the communication service tax was same. Now, this is a government that also promised to pay rent allowances to university students, I believe. The government, the presidential candidate wins power, gets a second-term mandate, and we are being told that there will be rent tax. Ordinarily, we will say that, the rent tax will not be paid by tenants, but rather the landlords. But we know what has happened in this country. Anytime tax is imposed, even on the telecommunication companies, they pass it on to we, the users. Exactly what will happen with the rent tax. Immediately the rent tax is imposed on landlords. What will then happen is that they will increase rent. You know, per the Rent Act, there are a number of years that you cannot even take advance. But let's ask ourselves, are landlords complying with the Rent Act? That is not happening. Now we want to impose rent tax. When you impose the rent tax, chamber hall that is going for maybe 700 Ghana cedi will now shoot up to 1,000 Ghana cedi. And this is the case that issues of unemployment, issues of decent jobs for the youth are not easy to come by. The youth are already suffering on the street of this country. They cannot even raise money to rent houses, particularly in Accra. You want to impose rent tax again. How are they going to rent the houses? We talk about affordable housing. After the houses are completed, how affordable are they? Which of the affordable houses have we even completed? The one that the NDC government completed, just here in Segleme. What has the MPP done with it? Because it was an initiative of the NDC government led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, they have left it to rot. And you want to impose rent tax. You want to burden an already burdened society that we are unable to even pay rent as we speak. Then you want to impose this to increase the rent. How are you even going to regulate the landlords that they will not charge higher fees? As we speak, there is nothing in this country, even though there is law, nobody is complying with the law.
But is the NDC not trying to sabotage any positive initiative that will work in the interest of the country at large? Because the NDC, when you celebrated your 29th anniversary recently, Johnson Asiedu Nketia made reference to the Get Fund as one of the bold initiatives that has ended up improving the lives of many who are in our educational institutions. And so it is a plus the NDC has today, because anytime they talk about it, they make reference to the Kumipreko demonstration and the MPP's posturing at that time. But a tax was imposed. Whether you have your own house or otherwise, it was a system that was put in place to raise revenue to fill a gap. We know that for every institution, taxes must be paid. And I was reading Ghana Revenue Authority's definition of rent income. And it says rent income is one which accrues to someone as a result of the letting or leasing a property to another person. The tax paid on rent income is referred to as rent tax. Rent tax must be paid within 30 days after rent income is received. And so it cuts across accommodation and housing. So you have a store, you have any other facility rented as an office and so on. Now, if this is a gap that we all agree that there's a huge revenue shortfall revenue shortfall, why would you complain about everything that is supposed to solve a problem we all know?
The picture should not be painted as though anytime government intended to roll out a policy, then the NDC would put spokes in their wheel.
But that's what you are just doing.
That is not the case. You mentioned Get Fund. You cannot compare the benefit we have gained from Get Fund to rent tax. You rarely mention how many people in this country haven't benefited from Get Fund.
No, stop there. What I'm saying, and I want to repeat it, whether it is rent tax or ESLA or Get Fund or whatever you want to name it, it ends up raising revenue for government.
Sure.
The revenue shortfall is the reason why countries borrow.
Yeah.
We have so much on our hands. Government is using an innovative way of filling a revenue gap.
Yeah.
What is wrong with it?
What is wrong with it is that this government itself, their narrative for mismanaging the economy is that because of COVID. And we've seen across the world that because of COVID, governments in other countries have introduced austerity measures to cushion its citizens. Now, what are we doing in our country? Rather, we are imposing taxes upon taxes, even in COVID. Now, if we are all struggling because of COVID, and government itself has admitted that they are struggling because of COVID, and you want to impose another burden on the citizen through rent tax. And I have mentioned here that when the tax is introduced, landlords are not going to bear it alone. They will transfer it to the tenants. In this case, they are going to increase rents. And in increasing rent, it means that the tenants, they are going to pay more. And this is the case that government itself is even referencing COVID as something that has affected the economy and is affecting everybody.
No, but you cannot.
So how then do you expect the citizens who are already suffering to pay rent that has been increased? So in this case, government, we have already paid a number of taxes.
But this case, you will develop your argument. You cannot eat your cake and have it.
Sure.
So you are suggesting that the landlord should continue to enjoy your rent without coughing something for government. And you are the same person like me who is waiting to see government introduce a strategy to bridge the housing deficit. So a government, for example, can suggest that we are going for PPP. And that PPP would mean that there is a guarantee for the private sector to at least beef up the effort to put up affordable housing, and there is a source of income that will come readily on monthly basis, just like waste management. Zoom Lion is doing good business today because there is a guaranteed source of income from the District Assembly Common Fund, which goes to the assemblies to pay for waste management. Is this not a fine idea?
You have made a brilliant suggestion. Unfortunately, that is not what government intends to do. Government has not mentioned anywhere that they will engage in PPP because they want to introduce rent tax. No. Government is saying that we have landlords who are receiving rents. They are not paying tax. So let's tax them. And I am saying that if you go straight to tax these landlords, and mind you, when I started my submission, I mentioned that imposing tax in itself, it's not bad because government needs revenue. But when you go in there and impose the tax without any regulatory measures, what you are doing is that the cost will be passed on to the already suffering tenants.
So your fear is that the system will rather be abused rather than the benefit to government?
Exactly, because we have Rent Act, an act passed by Parliament of Ghana. There are provisions in that act that landlords must comply with. Landlords are not complying with it. Even with the issue about the number of years or months that you should take rent advance. How many of the landlords are complying with it? What has government done? What has government done to enforce that provision in the Rent Act? They have not done it. So if you impose rent tax, then the landlords decide that, okay, even now that we are taking 2 to 3 years rent advance, now we'll take 5 years rent advance.
Hold it. I'm told that we are having difficulty getting somebody who had agreed to join us. I don't know whether because of, maybe I want to sound controversial, the difficulty in defending the presidential jet issue. But I think at this stage, I want to open the phone lines so that instead of reading the messages that are coming, I will do. You can also join us if the call comes through so that you share your opinion on any of the subjects. Please, no attacks. What we want to do is make your contribution and then offer what you prefer as the solution to the concerns you may have, or perhaps disabuse the minds of people if you disagree with Amos. With me here in the studio. Amos is a Deputy National Youth Organizer, Deputy Regional Youth Organizer of the NDC for Greater Accra. Amos, we are waiting for the calls. The numbers will appear on the screen, 0204155888, and of course 0204155944. So call us now. We have some 20 minutes. Let's see how many calls we can pick while we continue the conversation.
But the issue about even the imposition of the rent tax, government has they have promised to pay rent allowances for university students.
I said now.
So how is government going to tax its own self?
There's somebody on the line already. I knew that people are already, their appetite is high. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please, you can speak briefly, maybe 30 seconds, 1 minute, wrap up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, please, the issue I have to put on is that at least that the one are not moving, we are all in difficult times. So at least you are the first person to make some sacrifices for the other citizens to follow. But if you go on making choices, looking at the way things are going, I don't think it's good for the nation. So that's our issue. The government itself has to take responsibility. Know very well that we are in difficult times for people to also follow your footsteps. But you can't go on making luxurious living, and this is what I can put on.
Okay, thank you very much. But where did you call us from, sir?
Well, I call from Upper West Tumu.
Upper West Tumu. I believe Tumu is fine. Thank you very much. And tell more people to watch TVXYZ in the Tumu area. Thank you. So there's somebody else on the line. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Pacho Miteo. But normally, you say a fra ne a reduce a TV set, a kasa mete. So for those calling, just reduce the volume on your set before you speak to us, so that the feedback will not confuse you. Please, you can speak now.
Hello.
Yeah. Good morning. Speak, sir.
Good morning, sir. I heard about the rent tax thing.
Right.
Yeah. And this is something that we are finding difficult already. And assuming and the landlord will increase their rent, but that is very bad. Secondly, when people cannot afford the affordable houses, but how much did you pay us? And I'll talk to you. I will say, they give us 500 CDs, 700 CDs. And assuming if they increase it, and you can't pay. So the government is to do something about this.
All right, thank you. So make it short when you call so that we can pick as many calls as possible. It looks like it's back to back, so you hang on, let's listen to other views. Good morning. Tell us where you are calling from, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. The name is Delali once again.
Delali, where are you talking from?
I'm calling from Banana Inn, please.
Good. Speak fast. Right.
Boss, you see, let's face fact. Let's call speed a speed. Already, we are paying, how do you call it? This rent control, the assembly is letting people pay their property rate. That property rate goes to me. It goes to the government. Instead of them chasing that property rate, they are not trying to impose another burden on us. Somebody will tell you cement has gone. We the tenants will suffer. Water bill is going. We the tenants will suffer. And you are not bringing in another one, which is more. It is why are they trying to kill us?
Okay.
Are we not humans as they are?
All right.
Let's go say that. This is a very, excuse my language, very wicked proposal.
Okay, I can appreciate your passion. I can appreciate your passion, but let's be mindful and be measured in the choice of words. But I think point made. Thank you, Delali. So people are speaking. I'll pick a few more calls. And the numbers on the screen are 0204 155 888, 0204 155 944. Good morning.
Fine morning.
Yeah, may I know where you called from?
Yeah, I'm calling from the Western North region.
Bebiani, very good. I've worked there before. I remember I taught at the Presby JHS, just opposite the Presby Church, several years ago.
That's great. Oh, yeah, I want to comment on the presidential jet.
Okay, make it brief.
Yeah, I think that from where we sit now, you can see that the whole nation, in fact, things are not going on well. So we need something like leadership by example. So I don't see why government, with all the challenges that we are going through as a nation, we should still go and then hire the presidential jet. That will cost so much. When we have people who are finding it difficult to get water, we are finding problems, challenges with free SHS. All this money could have gone there to assist us. So I think that at least our leaders should have a second look on this presidential jet. It's not going to help us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me begin reading the text messages while I pick calls. Amos, don't worry. You wrap up. I'll end somewhere. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Kumasi Amakum.
Yo, Kumasi Mpacho, Kachi Kakrana Minti na Mitibiache.
Yo, me Pacho, me Katefri Kumasi Amakum.
Very good.
China na me Katefri Amrawa Foni Minyanki to Monte Brofon Betty.
Yo, Mpacho Yeti Ukasa.
Yo, Asemo. Me problem I'm wapa share Israel. And the Ghana was here. Imagine a dying war party. Uko high Diane. Uko high Diane Sika Uchia. And then Refan says 2-bedroom self-contained. And number 12,000 Ghana cedis. As a young boy, I would do my, if I say choke, 500 cities, I say 700 Ghana cities a month. Who better or family, who better
mpacho me bisa wa asem na ye nim se aban so pesika e dia ye mpuntu djuma enti se aban eje futuo kakra na wonso wusu a na
yo me pacho aban eje futuo kakra na hwe e kana omoje jino me kacho ya me ye wo grounds ye huniama hwe DCE me pacho DCE sa omo ba na nsa 4 years within 4 years me DCE me boni din da tuga
pacho mboni din wo de me pacho mboni din wo de kasa
Koshe within 4 years. 4 years ago, mun koshe DCU na niama waye 3 station 4. Danya kesa. Make my boni do FM station so.
Pacho Mr. me say because me ni jinasobia wo de kawase me mboni din pacho.
Niama waye. What it ye ti form ha njuma kakra ye no mutiti tax mutiti na nkwasiafo bi na.
Okay.
Wo de ka
Yo mpacho we dem srewa we TV no ya andwen say ya pese ya ma adwumadie no e fe kakra. I'm struggling to speak the tree into Mr. se fra man fa roba fra Mr. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. If you can make it brief or speak tree if you can, that's where you flow better.
Thank you very much. I'm Mr. Duejua Ibube. I'm talking from Kulu.
Wow.
Talking about the presidential jet that our president is cruising on, my brother Amos has finished that particular discussion. Look, we are living in a borrowed life. We are living, I'm assuming that you are living a borrowed life and you want to live luxurious life. Take that the people you are borrowing from, trying to see that you are even living better than them. So how then do you think that they will give you these monies when you go to them again? Now, looking at rent that you want to tax landlords, look, this thing will go back to the tenants. You are giving a tax, you are imposing a tax on a landlord who thinks that, look, yes, I'll pay. But when I collect it back to the house, I'll just, there's no regulation. They should have first of all come out with some kind of regulation. Plan it out and let us know that this and this and this are going to regulate this particular tax you are imposing on me. That when you impose a tax, they don't intend imposing on the people who are renting their houses.
Okay, so I'll take 3 more calls. Then I can allow Amos to wrap up and I'll read messages. Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Please, may I know where you called from?
I'm Anim from Koforidia.
Yeah, Anim Koforidia is saying.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Me pacho me Koforidia.
Pacho kasamitio.
Bogo. Yeah, me pacho rent e na me pesa me kan wasem kakra. Yeah, me say landlords no atibia mutua property rate. Na sa sika no e dem pa na ban no e de ye. I just say obey impose another tax. They say rent it all and change back a month, 1,200, 120, 150. So now they impose tax on a landlord. Then tenants as say break.
Yo mpacho Yo mpacho yana man ye tia waka krana ebi mo nso afre aka mienu. Next call. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, make it brief, sir.
Oh, okay. We don't want it, but now that's we are yes, you are rent we need the end here because the candy is you know. One more boss can no matter. I can hide free. No more did not view. No matter. No more could this cano. I won't find if say. In someone point, I say highway, I say Omugito, Omufine FA. Eti, that's the kind of Omukano. If I so be so, will be a media scabia.
Yo, Mate Pacho, Aka last call. Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning.
It's okay.
Yes, it's okay. I can hear you, sir. All right. So that's still, that call will still come. One more call, but people are making reference to property rate. And I know a lot of communities where people have put up quite semblance of mansions, and they pay property rates. But access roads in many of these developing communities are so bad. And so there is an element of what is the tax being used for? That is what is cutting through the sentiments that we are hearing from those who called.
Exactly. These are legitimate points raised. And if the argument is that our government needs revenue, our government needs revenue. There are a lot of revenues at the Jubilee House.
So let me read text messages. This one says, good morning, Mr. Hianyo. Landlords pay property rate. So why rent tax now? Maybe GRA has to do a lot of public education. Odro Manso from Seshi, we also says, we all know the difference. The defense minister is an arrogant and disrespectful person. Nana Akufo did not think we Ghanaians, Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa, Honorable Kobna Minta Kando, are the best, and God will continue to bless them. This text message says, I am Kwabi from Awaso. Please ask the opponent that the government use the rent. One, our own can buy more than 20 beds in the hospital. Some of the text messages, the typos or the grammar, but I'll try to manage them. So why is government using that to rent, fly a jet, and people are lying down in the hospitals? I think those listening have made sense out of your message. Please help us. We, the NAPCO personnel, it has been 3 months now, and our stipends have not been paid. I'm Nanaya from Apam in the central region. Some say Apen in the central region. Good morning, Mr. Hianyo. This one is from Inshraba, from Ashaiman constituency. I don't really understand the minority and the NDC party cry. Are they telling us that the president and Akufo-Addo should walk or use Okada when he's traveling for an assignment? They should give us a break. And in this country, have they forgotten the former president blew over $400,000 for a private jet while he was not the president, blah, blah, blah. Greetings to Alaji Labaran. Just do some few more. I have less than 1 minute to go. Good morning, Eric and Amos. I was really shocked by the defense minister's submission in Parliament yesterday when he claimed that the said trip fetched the country $175 million. How ridiculous. And it goes on and on and on. This message it says, I'm down below from Bremso. It said the insecurity disaster can't end anytime soon. If our main security chief tries to normalize these heinous crimes being perpetrated on citizens by comparing the situation of that of heaven. And this one says, people should help me. The government statisticians he appointed by the ruling government or what? Because I heard our inflation is now 7%, yet you go to the market and the price of commodities are going up and up and up. Good morning, I'm Kamla from Kumasi. I'm so concerned by the education report. It's very true. Subversion, WAEC officials, policemen, vigilators, blah, 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 all convey exams are compromised. This one says, good morning, Mr. Host. Don't mind him. That's Nitiwul. All what he came to do in power was to milk for themselves. I think time is up. Plenty messages. I do. Now, Eric, the truth must be told. Akufo-Addo and his government has failed us, and it goes on and on. I think I miscalculated. I took many calls, and I've not read plenty messages here. It's part of the process. My timing was bad. So if I didn't read your text message, bear with me. Tomorrow is another day. Send them early. I'll plan better. Amos, time is up. 20 seconds.
So I was saying that if the country or the government, we need revenue, the revenue is at the Jubilee House. We have a number of presidential staffers that we don't need. So if we cut them, and the ministers who have a lot of money to run this country.
Nana Benasewa, Pacho Sarishama, Tapontam, na Ochina Bra, Ochina Ifida, Nainzin Komaka Cryences Royanano. A Hanedi Jumadin Yedibesi, Ochina, a morning update, Besha say 6:30, Yabapon 9 o'clock. 1 hour boy in Amadana. I'm trying best to put it together. Ochoma Global Obama. Na Miomi Asi. Mawo na Yirami Echomi Adogo. Bye for now.